Well, Caitlin, I hope they let us in.
Did just get a text from someone in the physical meeting saying that the meeting has not started yet.
Okay, good. I just,
So I hope so too, yeah.
I'm like, I hope they let us in. Okay, they are.
Thanks, Susan.
Sorry to those of you on the Zoom call screen. It took us a minute to get a quorum here.
Yeah, about that.
I'll give everyone a chance to introduce themselves in a moment. I'm just making sure it's recording. Forgive me. So you have to look at my face
I
here.
looked at the sun and now I see there's a red dot where Jeremy's face.
I wonder if it automatically is recording. Oh, there it is. It's automatically recording. Okay, we're good.
Now the sun
All right, I'm calling the meeting to order. Now we have a quorum. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to those of you on the calling in remotely. I think I'll go around and give everyone a chance to introduce themselves in a moment. But let me quickly just go over the agenda. My name is David Mears. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. This is the official meeting of the monthly meeting of the Northfield Conservation Commission. We'll do a roll call of the members. We'll check in on the agenda. We've got public participation planned, and I know that's why a number of folks are here tonight is to talk about the town forest, Cheney Field access issues. And then after that, we've got some other issues that we need to make sure we get to, because we didn't get to them last month. So I'm going to try to be fairly strict about trying to wrap this section, the first section of Cheney Field, up by 7-ish. And that's the agenda. So with that, let me just do a quick roll call. If the Conservation Commission members would be willing to just introduce themselves.
Debbie Swart. Hi, Ruth Rudenberg.
Susan Stillinger.
Russ Barrett, Jeremy Whalen.
David Mears.
I'm Mariella Swig.
And we're missing Nigel, who may show up later. But we'll go ahead. Why don't we go around the room if folks are willing, and then we'll go to the Zoom call after that. So, Mary.
I'm Mary Nathan Scott, and I'm representing just a community citizen in part of the accessibility, walkability, pedestrian safety talk, and just a community member. So thanks for adding the community discussion to the agenda tonight.
Thanks, Mary. And you know, I think when we kick off the discussion, I might turn back to you or someone on the group, just to, if someone would be willing to give kind of a quick summary of the conversation Monday, because it seems like we should build on that. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Great, great. And so behind.
I'm Delane McElvain, ditto from Larry, same task force, and thank you very much for the invitation for our committee to come and meet with you all. We appreciate it.
Thanks. Bill Clemens, ditto, same task force. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Bill.
Danny Miles. Tim Swartz, also from the Accessibility, etc. Task Force. Dan Anderson from the etc. Task Force as well.
I'm Nancy Peck, and I'm here because I'm part of the walking group that meets at least once or twice a week. And once a week in the summer, twice a week in the winter, and we use the forest a lot.
Great, thanks, Nancy.
I'm Mary Shernock.
Hi, Mary. I couldn't see you with your hand.
Oh, I can't see anybody. I looked at the sun and now Jeremy's got nothing but a red dot on his face. It'll all be done in 10 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. So back row.
I'm Gerard McLaughlin. I'm a Northfield resident.
Thanks, Gerard.
I'm Bill Del Solo with the Town Forest Stewardship Committee.
I'm Rebecca Parrish. I'm a Northfield resident.
Ginny Kunkel, also a Northfield resident, and for anybody who wasn't at the meeting Monday night, if you're interested, we did post over here and anyone could take a look. These are some products from the meeting the other night, the goals, we listed goals, concerns, and questions if anyone cares to take a look at that.
Thank you.
I'm Roy Hill.
thanks, everyone. So, oh yeah, thank you, Seth. And on the screen, maybe I can't make out people's names from where I am, so if you'll just popcorn introduce yourselves, that would be great. I recognize Laura. Laura, why don't you start?
Laura Hill Eubanks. I'm part of a group that's, I guess, voicing their concerns about the parking lot.
Thanks.
Well, don't all speak at once.
Caitlin, you're up. Yeah, thank you.
Caitlin Keating?
Thank you, Steve.
Susan.
My name is Susan Barnard. I am part of the Northfield Roxbury Outing Club.
Janann.
I'm Janann Ham also from the Accessibility, et cetera group, but I'm here in my function as a member of Susan Barnard's walking group that uses Cheney frequently.
Great, well, thanks everyone. So I didn't actually spend any time structuring an agenda. For this first hour of discussion, I thought that we could structure it together. If it makes sense, I thought we could start by getting a summary of how the conversation went Monday. I know from looking around the room and hearing who's participating that everyone's familiar with the basic issues. So my sense of the goal for tonight isn't necessarily to reach a conclusion to a specific answer. The Conservation Commission has made a recommendation to the board. We had a great initial discussion with the Accessibility, et cetera group. And but the part of the reason that I moved quickly to schedule this time, and I know part of the reason that Mary wanted the discussion Monday, is just to make sure that if there is time-sensitive need to make a decision by the select board, that we just are having a continued discussion, so we don't miss unintentionally an opportunity to make progress. But just for everyone who wasn't at the last meeting, where we left it was a commitment from the Conservation Commission to engage with the accessibility group to have a longer-term, thoughtful discussion about accessibility to the town forest, period. Just, putting aside, and Cheney Field might at some point become a part of that discussion. Parking, was off the table for that discussion, but there might be other options and issues broader than just parking and access, but that deal with trail accessibility and overall management of the town forest in ways that make it accessible to everybody. So, for tonight, unless I miss my mark, our main goal is to continue that dialogue. But if someone sees an opportunity or is more familiar with where the select board is or where the contract process is, and feels like there's a need for the Conservation Commission to make a decision tonight on some issue around this, please feel free to suggest that and we can consider it. Yeah, Mary?
I have no idea where that contract is, and I asked yesterday, last night, not 12 hours ago, well, 24. And, but I did find out that things are so delayed that the tanks haven't even arrived yet. So then I found out, after we pressed, then I found out that maybe they wouldn't do the remediation that is in the contract until next spring. So there's your timeline. We got more time than we thought.
Okay. Well, I think that's on balance probably a good thing for this conversation.
I think
time to play out.
on balance, it probably is. More time is always useful. I'm sure we can use it up.
Yes, I'm sure we can.
I would also, since I'm talking, I was also going to say, if somebody would stand up and add more things onto that product, so that if things come up that weren't brought up on Tuesday, they can be added to that.
Yes, Mary?
But I can't do it.
Dan, did you receive additional concerns or questions that you either want to add to the list, or maybe you could read for the Conservation Commission or for both?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So I did get a couple of bullets from Janan, I think forwarded from Susan Barnard, who I see is on the call right now, and so I don't want to speak for Susan, but I'd love to, Susan, I don't know if you're there and you want to unmute. Is there anything that you would like to add to our ongoing discussion on the posters that we started the other day? Or we may have lost her. Oh, here she comes.
I'm here. I just wanted to add that perhaps where some of the dirt is right now on Norwich land, maybe that could be not do the parking lot up at Cheney, but maybe on some Norwich land, have it restricted so it's not open, the gate is not open all the time. And it's not a big area that we're asking for, maybe 4 or 5 cars so that we can carpool up.
Got it. Thank you, Susan. I will make sure those get up on the poster. I've got them noted right here in my lap for now.
I have a question.
Yeah, Danny.
I thought Monday was the first time we discussed this. I live on Hill Street, Byam Hill. Monday night was the first I'd heard of it. Apparently, this has been an ongoing discussion that I wasn't aware of. Maybe that's my fault.
Great, well, I'm glad you're here now, and if it's helpful to give a recap, a select board member earlier this summer, maybe July-ish, the chair reached out to me and asked what would the Conservation Commission think about having some parking established in Cheney Field, as you know, in the area where they've done some staging of equipment. And so we had a dialogue, I believe it was at our July meeting, and we made a recommendation to the select board at that time that we said we didn't think that that was the proper way to proceed. And then we had a meeting last month, Mary and others came. We had a conversation about that recommendation, and more or less ended up in the same place of feeling, as a Conservation Commission, feeling like it wasn't the right decision to put the parking there, at least at this time, without more public process engagement and some more information. And now you're up to speed. I think it's
Thank you very much.
It's not much, there wasn't a lot more than that.
Thank you, that's good.
I wonder, before we kind of open up to well, actually, I think it would be useful to all of us, tell me if you disagree, to have some a summary of what happened and transpired at Monday's meeting, so we're up to speed with that. And I'm happy for anyone on the accessibility, et cetera, group to provide that that's willing and able. And then perhaps we could have questions or issues from the Conservation Commission members, if you want to, and you don't have to. And then we can open up and have a conversation where the broader group engages. Does that make sense as a rough structure? Seeing nods. Okay. Does someone, Mary or Dan or somebody, want to give us an update on how Monday's discussion went and highlights?
I can start if you want, and anything.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to hear your take on it, and then we can fill in. And anyone that doesn't, anyone who wants can.
So we sort of structured the meeting as like a roundtable community conversation. Well, we set up a bunch of tables and we all just sort of had chairs and just had a conversation. Some background was sort of provided, like why we were having this conversation and what was going on, and she filled in the temporary disruption going on, and we talked about that contract and where that stood. And this was unfortunately prior to this select board meeting where there was some updates. So we had that background, and then we all sort of went around the room and we had introductions of everybody at the table, like who they were affiliated, but not necessarily represent, but like what maybe groups they were in, or what was bring them to the meeting, like if they lived in a certain neighborhood or were in a certain community group, or like if they were in a, pursuit of passion for outdoors or etc. And then we shared a memory of Cheney Field that was sort of the intro, like we're all here for passion, so sort of bringing that up. And I think that created an environment of like family and community and just, that one common shared purpose sort of thing. And then we started the roundtable of like, if you had any certain questions or concern, we sort of divided it into 3 different sections and if there were different ones, then we would have another, but we thought we would narrow it down to three taglines or categories: the passions, concerns, and goals. And so we sort of again went around the table, and if you had a question or if you a thought or a feedback and you wanted to say, okay, mine is more of a question category. So we tried to write down people's feedbacks, questions, concerns, goals. And we tried to capture everybody's points of view and questions and all that. And we had it for an hour also, which we sort of took the direction from you folks. Like we tried to have it at 6 to 7. We went overtime a little bit, unfortunately, but we tried to keep it 6 to 7. And we tried to write down everyone's comments so everyone sort of had a voice and a way to be heard. And then Dan kindly offered up his email to, like, if you fall into a person category like me, I often think of questions after the meeting is over with. So that night when my wheels were still turning, I emailed Dan. I was like, oh, I have a question about this and a question about that. And I forgot to bring it up, and I don't want to forget on Wednesday. So I reached out, and I'm not sure. I think a couple of other people did also. But I think that's what I remember. What did I forget?
No, that sounds great, Mary. That's a really good description. A couple things that I would just add to that I think were important sort of tone-setting elements of the conversation. I think everyone can agree that this is a topic that there's a lot of emotion around. People have some pretty strong feelings about this. And so the hope with engaging in this discussion is that we bring more light to the conversation and less heat to the conversation, and that we keep in mind that the choice between access and conservation is not binary, and that we assume good intentions from everyone around the table, right? So we assume that everyone that's engaging this conversation loves nature and wants to see nature conserved, and we assume that everyone involved in this conversation loves their neighbors and wants to see equitable access to the town forest land. And to your point about the rush, I feel like there has been kind of a sense of urgency in some places about this, but I think that might be a little bit misplaced, and that's reinforced from what I'm hearing from Mary. I don't think that this is something we need to feel rushed with, but I'm really hopeful that where we've started will lead to consistent engagement with this conversation as we find a solution that makes sense to help more people access community resources. Did I miss anything?
Not a summary, but When I left the meeting, I felt really energized by the conversation that was had between everybody here and noticed a true sense of community, which is the biggest thing that stood out to me when we moved to Vermont. No matter where I went, community is the word that stood out to me. And that's what I felt on Monday night. So that was a wonderful feeling to have diverse views and, respectful, wonderful conversations. So that's just kind of stood with me.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's an excellent tone to start with, and I really appreciate what you were describing, Dan.
Awesome.
In terms of like the, assume good intentions and, assume that we're all kind of starting from a shared set of values. And the question then is like, what's the right solution to honor both of those? So with that, did any of the Conservation Commission members, were any of you able to attend? Suz, Debbie, anything you want to share in terms of your reactions? Pardon?
Bill and Jenny were there too.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna, for this section of the agenda, I was just gonna take a minute and kind of ask for reflections of commission members, and I'm starting with you two, just because.
Russ. Oh, that's right.
Russ,
Sorry,
you were there.
Russ was on Zoom, sorry.
Great, well, Debbie, can I start with you, and then Suz, and then Russ?
Gosh, I don't know. That was a good description of what we, the tone of the meeting, and I think it was a very good start to thinking that we can work together to find, the best solution for more access. That's all I have to add.
That's great.
I kind of agree, and what, I think it would be good to have, and haven't gotten there yet, some type of brainstorming session, to come up with ways to make it happen. Whether it be golf carts from the library, shuttle buses, horse and hay wagon 4 times a year from the field. There's a lot of ideas that could come up with a good brainstorming session that, there's not gonna be open parking lot 365 days a year, 12 months a year. So,
I think we can all start from a place.
Controlled but accessible.
I think it's safe to say we can all start from a place of absolute agreement on this, that nobody is looking for, a paved parking lot up there that's accessed, unlimited day and night, all seasons. I think there's a lot of room between that and nothing.
Yeah, if I could, and it's actually one of the first questions on the list over there, it was about access. How are we defining it? What are the various levels? We talked about, the issue came up in the meeting about policing, and we decided that was the wrong word. Remember, it was more like how is it regulated? So it's not unbridled, I would agree with Dan, we haven't been talking about, I seem to hear this, it sounds like when I hear it, we're talking about a big parking lot. And that's really not it, it's some level of regulated access to achieve a higher level of access for those that can't benefit from getting up there and seeing the field now. And so, I would agree, there's a whole range of, what could that look like? And how would we think about it? We'd asked a number of other questions too. I didn't realize those were still up there.
So somebody should read that.
When we came in.
So we don't reinvent the wheel.
Do you mind if I?
Yeah, you're closest to it.
So in no particular order, these all just kind of came up randomly, but for goals, preserve Cheney and find other ways to get access. Presumably that meant without having dedicated parking at the field. That represents a person's goal, not necessarily the goal of everyone who was sitting at that table. Define access. I think that's what Bill was talking about. What does access mean? So, for example, right now we have access to the town forest from Slade Ave, but, from the Shaw Center and.
The parking is allowed on Slate Avenue, and anyone can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but technically that trail is closed right now. Now, I will say, have I traversed the trail? Yes. Do I see others doing the same? Yes, I won't call anyone out. But it's not actually technically open right now.
Got it.
We're reading the rules.
So I think anyway, to get to the heart of define access, I think the question is, does parking spaces at the Shaw Center equal access to the town forest? We were asking about the mowing schedule. I think someone had a lead on that it was happening once a year, but that the schedule wasn't totally nailed down and wasn't necessarily idealized for the protection of nesting birds. So I think that's an issue that everybody wants to be really mindful of. Concerns, the timing, need to make sure that decisions are made so restoration is done or not. I think there was a significant concern and a valid one that if we are so tied up in this conversation that the select board isn't able to give expectations to the contractor of how they restore that land, then they're gonna just pack up and leave and it'll never get restored. So that's a concern. Updated schedule, I think we just got a little bit of an update from Mary on that. The narrow road, so the access up Byam is an objectively narrow road. There's safety concerns with that. Driving on Hill Street in Byam. What's the volume of traffic that would be up there? What are the controls for amount of traffic or occupants? I'm not totally sure, if I'm honest, what that one was about. Nesting birds are a concern. More access can affect, could more access somehow affect the water storage tank? Would that lead to security concerns with that? Questions, access, what do we mean by access? Back to Bill's point, how do we define the space? So what do we mean by chain field? How is the road maintained? If there's gonna be a road that allows continued access, how would that be maintained? Updated schedule, why not Shaw? Why are we even having this conversation when we already have parking at the Shaw Center? Is it possible, is it even possible to put up more access closer to the field? There's another question, are there examples of other areas in the region, other towns that have town forest or shared community forest space that is similarly difficult to access, like a bottleneck through a residential neighborhood to get to these shared trails? How have other communities dealt with that in the past? I'm sure there's other examples that we could look to. Security, regulating, policing options, that was already discussed a little bit. And then sort of the basic question of does better access equal more traffic? Is there a solution that we could come up with that wouldn't necessarily result in significantly heavier use of those roads? Can anyone think of anything I missed?
What's that little green thing?
Huh?
What's the little green sticky thing on the other?
That says extra paper.
Okay, good to know, good to know. Make note of that.
Clear communication.
Yes. And so, yeah, and that's there, and I said this explicitly the other day, and this goes for moving forward. This was just a clumsy attempt at getting this conversation started. There's no one here that thinks that we need to be confined to those 3 columns. That's just an opening. Any other categories that anyone thinks of that we need to be recording ideas or concepts, we can add them up.
Well, that's great. And I know, I'll just share a reflection. I've heard from a number of folks who have, as someone noted, are feeling passionate about this issue. In my experience from, building community and coming up with public policy issues where there's controversy takes a little bit of patience. If we're gonna have an organized, thoughtful, polite discussion, it just takes a minute to get ourselves organized to figure out what are the real points of agreement, what are the real points of disagreement, and then we can figure out that, among our, either together as 2 groups, ideally we'll come together on a recommendation to the select board. But if we can't, then we'll be able to identify for them, here's the place in which we disagree, and then the select board ultimately will be responsible for deciding. And so that's kind of my rough sense of how, I think the shared goal we have, and we want to make sure we don't miss an opportunity, frankly, to start this conversation about Cheney Field to get to a place where we, if there's a possibility of having agreement, we want to find it. And even more importantly, frankly, to me, just to share my own bias, is I want to make sure there's more issues around accessibility and access to the town forest than just this question of whether to use this parking area in Cheney Field or not. That I think are important to the Town Forest Stewardship Committee and to the Conservation Commission and to the community. And so I want to make sure we do this in a way that even if we disagree on the parking lot, we haven't closed the door on an ongoing conversation, if that makes sense. So Debbie, yeah.
Well, so I was thinking of a point of clarification. Do we want to consider access beyond just focusing on Cheney Field? Or do we want to specifically limit ourselves to whether access to Cheney? I mean, how broadly do we want to work? Because there are other ways to get to the town forest that are also not as accessible as we would like. But do we want to, how broadly do we want to look at things?
Yeah, good question. Yes, please.
I'm Nancy Peck. We went up with the Northfield Roxbury outing group on Thursday. And we parked at Shaw and at the medical center and walked up from there. And we went across the ski field. We're still on Norwich land the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't actually get to the town forest until we pass that slate quarry. By then, you've had a hike. And in order to get into town forest, because Slate Avenue is closed, you have to go across Cheney and then start your hike into the forest. So I guess one of the thought was at the bottom of the slate quarry, where they're dumping all the dirt right now from the construction site, would make a great place for a couple of parking spaces for carpooling or whatever. And then you could start there and get onto Cheney, or go to the yellow trail and get up into the pine forest up there, above the quarry. But it's just like, it's so hard now to get into the forest. It's hard for us to have access to that. Burroughs Road is limited parking. Slate is closed. And I guess the question is, as a resident, unless you're willing to invest in a 20-minute walk to get to the forest, you don't have access to it.
So I don't know if you intended as a response to Debbie's question, but one way I could kind of combine the two things is, I mean, there might be a benefit of having a broader discussion because there may be a solution that touches on more than one of it gives access to the town forest trails and improves the access to Cheney Field as well. But, I mean, I think that's a question for us to think about. Before I, yes, says.
Well, I was just wondering, is there, this is, I think, my third meeting on the commission, so I don't know how all this works. Is there a way to get an official answer to our timeline question? No offense, Mary, but I'd like it.
I'm sorry, that's up to you.
No, I know, but somebody, I mean, does Jeff have a better?
No, I don't think he does.
Okay.
I don't think he does. I mean, we had to ask him, who was here last night? Jeremy was here. As I recall, we had to ask him about the tanks, specifically, well, are they here, finally? And then he said, well, no, they aren't.
Right, he said at that point they were 2 to 3 weeks out, but he didn't say from when. Like, was it 2 to 3 weeks from when he said that last night? He just said that. And then he also said that, like you had said earlier, Mary, that it was probably unlikely, and I agree, winter construction and things like that, probably. The concrete guys are gonna be banging on the door of October 15th, probably very easily. So I would say earthwork.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
About here in Zoom land? Could we just get a commitment from the select board that they will give us warning when it's time to make a decision? Because I know that's funny, but it's, something's got to give here. Because I've been feeling like we're supposed to hurry up or we're going to lose the contractors and we're never going to get Cheney restored. And my personal preference is that Cheney is restored and we find other options, which I think we should start working on soon if we're going to do that. But I would like to have some kind of commitment from the select board that they're just not going to up and decide this before they get any feedback from us as a group. And I was hoping that we could somehow form maybe a committee of 1 or 2 representatives from each of the parties that are interested and make this a little bit easier, some kind of partnership where we have representatives that meet regularly and hash out some ideas, because this format is a little bit complicated and a little bit free form and maybe takes a lot longer than we have time for. Because as you all know, you've all probably worked on projects for the town before, everything takes a long time to work out and decide and implement. So I'm just trying to figure out ways where we can move forward and do it, in the time that select board deems that we have.
Right, I'm really enjoying this format that started on Monday, but I'm also like nervous about this time frame and the unknown, and it changes the conversation if we have a month or if we have a 16 months.
I think it's very clear you have way more than a month. When they said that tanks weren't even here yet, and I hear Jeremy talking about cement, concrete, it's like, yeah, you got more time than you think. Because old man winter is gonna strike here, and then we're all done. And if the field hasn't been restored, that has to happen. They don't get paid until that field is restored. So it's in their best interest to do that. I don't know if that helps you or not. I think you can relax, it's not next week. It's not at the end of September, as we originally thought.
My lawyer brain is trying to navigate this. We have an unclear timeline with insufficient information to resolve a disagreement where we don't really know enough. And I'm putting aside the question of the contract, I think there's still information that all of us would probably like to have to a number of, like the questions that were raised there, to make a thoughtful decision. And so with all that uncertainty and your patience with me thinking out loud, the Conservation Commission is not the entity that will decide this. We are an entity that makes a recommendation with regard to our mission around natural resource protection. We've made that recommendation. That still stands with the select board. They can ignore it or not. It's up to them. So in terms of kind of process and what our role is, so I think that my suggestion for us as a group is that we work with the accessibility, et cetera, group to identify a reasonable path forward, to identify some solutions and options that we can present to the select board. And we pick something that's reasonable, that we think, whatever that number is, I don't know if it's 90 days or 60 days or 30 days, but something, maybe we do Laura's suggestion, we get a small work group who comes up with some ideas, but we set a deadline for ourselves to bring this to some resolution. And then we'll share that with the select board. And if it's timely, that's great. If it's too late, it's not really anything we have control over. We don't have enough information to know that. And I don't really feel the need or I have no desire to rush a process where there's conflict and controversy and complexity, if that makes sense. Why rush to a bad decision? I understand, I appreciate the risk that we might reach a good decision, but it's too late to take advantage of the contractors, but that's just not, it seems a little beyond our control to manage.
Only if we had information from them, that they had, but don't know.
Like my kids used to say, when they would pester me with stuff, I'm like, if you need an answer now, the answer is no. If you can wait, then we'll have a conversation, maybe we'll come to a different answer. Yeah, Gerard.
Yes, my name is Gerard Weimar, I'm a Northfield resident. I'd just like to reiterate a few points I made last night at the select board meeting. People weren't able to attend or couldn't follow Zoom. My first point last night was that Select Board member John Stevens is a professional civil engineer. And he made a statement 2 weeks ago, not 2 weeks ago, but the previous Select Board meeting, that the access road that is there is unsafe for public travel. So I'm concerned that the Select Board is not listening to a civil engineer who's on their board who said that road would not be safe for public travel.
Can I ask you to pause just for a second to catch me up to speed? When you say they ignored,
well,
have they made a decision?
They haven't made a decision yet, but it appears that that would be an important thing to consider, and I haven't heard any discussion or comments about that from the Select Board or other ones. So the phrase I used last night was their indifference to his comment. But there's also another civil engineer in Northfield who was also said, looked into the zoning regulations in Northfield and said that road wouldn't even get a permit for a driveway in Northfield as it is. The second point I made last night was that there are two committees in town that have studied this issue at great length, the NCC and the Town Forest Stewardship Committee, and repeatedly it said that parking in Cheney is not appropriate. And the third point I made, which is a serious concern and a legitimate concern, is stormwater runoff. Climate change and the amount of flooding we've had in Vermont the last couple of summers, changes to the topography, changes to the terrain, changes to the impervious material up there, is going to have an impact on stormwater runoff. And in fact, not only the immediate neighborhood, but all of town. I don't think we have to think too back to Hurricane Irene and what happened to this town then, that a serious stormwater study should be done and a stormwater permit should be required before any permanent parking places are placed up there. For those reasons, I encourage the board to adhere to the contract that they have and have Cheney restored to its natural state.
Great, thanks, Gerard. The only question that I heard that wasn't already up on the list, Dan, that you put was the issue about stormwater. So maybe we should make sure to capture that.
Yep, as a concern, yes, I think that's a great idea.
David?
Yes,
I mean, you kind of raised the issue I had, which is there an engineer amongst us? Because that's.
John Stevens, I'm sorry to interrupt. John Stevens is here on Monday.
I understand, but like if we're forming a small committee, I think an engineer would be a very useful person to have, because we need to make sure that we're being practical, and to spend a lot of time trying to come to a solution without an engineer might leave us with a disaster.
Yeah, no, it is a challenge, and you know, the benefit of having that prior report that we referenced was that there was a consultant who had the time and expertise to kind of evaluate some different options and share them with the town. I mean, we're facing the classic challenge that all small towns in Vermont face, which is we don't have a robust staff, we don't have, you know, a whole set of experts on the town staff, we don't have the resources to hire consultants. So I think we do what we can do with the resources and the expertise we've got. We make a recommendation based on our best judgment, and ultimately it'll be up to the select board to decide how to direct the expenditure of town resources. So I'm not disagreeing with you, Ruth, but it may be that part of our recommendation is to say, on balance, we think you should do a parking area here or here or here, or you know, some other place, or you should build a ski lift, I don't know. But whatever our recommendation is, we'll be handing it to the select board to say, and you all have to figure out, we also recommend you get some engineering advice on whether or not we're out to lunch. Does that make sense?
By then it might be too late though.
It may be. It's a backwards process that I don't know that any of us can fix at this moment.
I have two questions. Number one, on 12A, we have a water supply there with a gate locked so that there's no vehicle access to it. I would think if we're putting a water supply behind my house, that the same would hold true, that there would be a locked gate so that if we get a lot of traffic up there, that's our water supply. what could happen. That's one thing. Secondly, somebody mentioned permits. Did this have to go through Act 250 or not? I'm just asking the question.
Well, as the actual environmental and land use lawyer in the group, I'll just say, I'm not gonna give advice on those things. I think those are questions that I would pitch to the select board to have their town attorney assess. I don't know that we know for sure. It depends on a whole set of variables. I think it's unlikely that it requires Act 250 approval. I think it's unlikely it requires a formal state stormwater permit, but I don't know the answer to those questions. And it depends on how big it is and a number of other things. So I think that's another variable we just have to say. We recommend that the town get advice on things like that. Unless any one of us has the expertise and is comfortable doing that, I'll start with you and then Gerard.
I just wanted to make a point of clarification about the water up there and the water at the well field.
Yeah.
The well field is where the water is collected from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
This is our equivalent of the big water towers you see out west. It's pumped up there in enclosed tanks. So the risks to the water are very different. I think there are security concerns about people getting to our water supply that need to be taken into account. They're just different between the two cases.
I understand, thank you.
Yeah.
I saw Dan taking notes.
Is it Delaney? I'm sorry.
Delaney.
Delaney, yeah.
I saw Dan taking notes. I've got the markers right here. If do we want to just write down questions?
Oh, yeah, I didn't see you at the markers there, thank you.
Okay, they're right here.
My writing is not as good as the person we had the other day, but I'll do my best.
We've already got water supply safety, but I think the new concern that Denny raised that I hadn't heard before was asking about.
Stormwater.
Well, we got stormwater, but the Act 250, is there some other land use? There might be town, local zoning requirements. I just haven't looked to know.
As far as the water goes, this is just a point of observation, because I live on the other side of town. There's another water tank on Garvey Hill. You can pretty much drive up to it. So I think the questions about security are answerable. We certainly need to have them on a list, but another issue that came up that I think we need to get an answer to was, it was my understanding from the discussion Monday night that the water department will need a road to continue in for maintenance of the tank. So this isn't like a one and done, it's gonna be gone and the tank will never be maintained, touched or examined. I think we need to understand what their thinking is on this and what their requirements are to get in there to the tank.
You know, one thought, Rebecca, I saw you had your hand up, and Gerard, I know you've had your hand up, so I want to make sure you get a chance. But maybe one outcome for tonight, keep an eye on the clock, is that we would basically send a set of questions, collectively, questions that we have about how would this issue or that issue or information that we'd like, and give that to the select board and the town staff and ask if someone would be willing to work with us to try to answer those questions. Some of them I think won't be answerable in the near term, and there may not be people in the town staff or the select board that have the expertise to answer them. But it would be a useful exercise, I think, to do that. I'm glad we've got a good start with Dan's help. Gerard and then Rebecca.
Quite a comment about the stormwater permit. It's my understanding, and I'm not an expert, but it's my understanding that's a temporary permit valid for only the length of the construction project, not indefinite. So that's something that would need to be looked at if you're going to change the contract if you're going to put it in front of your road. And there's also a difference between a utility road for a utility vehicle for the town to access the tanks and the general public going up and down there. So,
Yeah, agreed.
It's an important distinction.
Good point.
I think that was Mr. Stevens' comment when he said that road is ridiculous, is the quote. I mean, it's written differently in the minutes, but if you watch the video, he said that road is ridiculous.
Yes, Rebecca.
That's just a small, I think it would be possible that you could secure the water, where the water is, thinking about its location, in the field, very separately from how you would secure, access to any sort of parking spaces or anything like that.
Because I think from what's being described by Nancy, and then what I visualize the field of the water tanks, they're actually like right above my house, really. There's kind of considerable distance, so it doesn't seem like you have to allow people to have access to a water tank. If you were giving some access to some other part of the forest there.
Great. Yes.
Yes. My question on this is, I'm not able to access the forest. I'm 82 years old. I cannot walk from Main Street up to the forest. And then go into the forest and enjoy it. I'm gonna get to the gate at Wyams, then we'll turn and walk back down. Which is good exercise, but I'm still not going into the forest. So, in essence, you're asking a lot of elderly people whose tax money is being used to maintain the town forest, but they do not have the access to it. So you're using my money, but you're not letting me use it.
Thank you, that's a great point. I'm smiling only because I'm looking at the Town Forest Stewardship Committee. How much do you all get paid for maintaining the town forest?
Zero.
So we're not spending a lot as a town. I frankly wish that we were spending some more money on it.
But I can tell you, the largest contribution, and it wasn't even really taxed, that we've had for the town forest, the select board authorized $40,000 in ARPA funds last year when we were doing the ARPA fund allocations for trail maintenance, and that's the single largest allocation we've had to maintain that property. So I moved here in 2019, so that predates from 2019 until now. As the chair of the Town Forest Stewardship Committee, that's the largest and only appropriation we've got of town money to do anything.
With that said, I completely agree with your point. We want to make sure that everybody in the community has access to it, 100%.
My other statement on that is, if the town forest was sold, then we would collect taxes off of it. So it still goes back into tax base.
Good point, thank you. That's a fair point. All right, I want to think a little bit about if we can turn the conversation to thinking about next steps. One step that I've suggested is that we come out of this conversation, if someone would volunteer to maybe take some of the questions that Dan's captured, and I'm happy to be part of that and work that into something that we send to the select board. I also think I want to make sure that we think about what's our next opportunity to meet. I know for sure Laura actually sent me an email and asked if we could put this on the agenda for the September Conservation Commission meeting, so I'm going to suggest that. Ask this group if you're willing to do that. There were some folks I think who wanted to participate today who couldn't be here. So it's one small thing. Are there other action items? Mary, did you have any suggestions, or Dan?
One of the things I was gonna say was wanting to bring up the next steps because I was looking at the time and I know that you guys have a meeting. So I wanted to just bring up the September meeting. My question was if you guys wanted to host it at your next meeting, or if you wanted to host it as a separate meeting. I'm not sure what your next agenda, if that would fit your next meeting, or if that needs to be scheduled separately, and I'd be happy to volunteer to help set anything up with you folks being the host, of course. But I just didn't know if you would be able to allocate like an hour of your meeting time for a community conversation again, or if you needed to have a separate event.
Yeah, I think so one option would be a separate kind of joint meeting. That includes the, officially noticed Conservation Commission meeting that's separate from our regular meeting. One option is we take it like tonight, have an hour of our regular meeting set aside for this discussion. I think another option is, and none of these are mutually exclusive, we could do all of these. Another option, Laura made a suggestion of getting a smaller work group who could just do some of the legwork to gather information and come up with, Russ had mentioned maybe a brainstorming session. You know, so it might be useful to have something that's not fully structured, but kind of like a facilitated effort to have a discussion. Yes, well, you Dan.
I do believe that the contractor that's doing the work up there has stated that if we wanted that parking space, they would help to upgrade the road to it.
They'd have to upgrade what?
They would use their equipment to upgrade that road to get to that parking spot.
The road that is currently a joke, as it is, right, Alvin, you're saying that they would turn it
Yeah,
into
they would,
less of a joke.
yeah, they would make that road back safe and passable.
Could I make a suggestion before we decide all this? Could we have the first hour of the Conservation Commission agenda at your next meeting on the 24th? Because that works for our group the best. And at that meeting, perhaps set up a work group if everybody is agreeable to that.
Say the last part, Laura, and at that meeting, set
And
up
at
a
that
what?
meeting, as part of the meeting, perhaps set up a working group, decide who would like to be on it. So that would be the next step, I guess.
I was actually gonna advocate for something very similar, not with the timeline necessarily, but I think next steps that might make a lot of sense is to identify folks that would be interested in volunteering to be part of that work group, find some answers to some of these questions, and keep the conversation moving forward. I also heard Suz say that you really liked having that open conversation. And so I wonder if there's a way to sort of capture both, where we have a core work group of people that have signed up to do legwork and find answers to questions, but when it's time to meet, that meeting is advertised to the public and people are welcome to join and contribute. Does that sound like a decent compromise?
So I think I had brought this up at the select board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I think the preference for at least one board member is, even if there's a work group, to have it as an open meeting, follow open meeting minutes, and keep it open to the public.
Great.
Just wheels are spinning in my head. There's something, Mary, and then
Sorry.
I'm hoping someone might make a proposal.
One more question. If community members have additional questions or concerns or feedback or thoughts, what is a good email to send those to? Should we still send them to Dan? Should we send them to you, David, being the chair of the Conservation Commission? Should we send them to, like where should folks? I feel like people should perhaps be welcomed and encouraged to keep things, but where could they send those questions or thoughts or concerns?
I suppose in theory, they could send them to me, but I've got a heavy litigation schedule for the next 3 months, so the odds are very low that I would actually be able to collate and respond those, and it feels like we don't know what the time sensitivity is, but we want to keep this discussion going. So if Dan, if you were willing.
Yeah, I'm happy to, anyone who sends me stuff, I'll keep a list going and I'm happy to.
What's that?
Oh, thank you. I should write it up there or something. It's Anderson D, ANDERSOND, at hartfordschools.net, and it's schools plural.
So it seems like the only question where there may be disagreement in terms of next steps and process is whether to have some work group conversations between now and the September meeting of the Conservation Commission. Our next regular meeting is until the last Wednesday of the month. So that's a good month out, exactly a month out. Does anyone on the Conservation Commission want to make a recommendation or a proposal?
Just a comment. Seems like we got two groups paralleling the problem. And Mary and Dan's group. Have you got another meeting planned, Mary? Yeah?
We
You
meet
plan to
every
meet again, though.
Tuesday.
We meet every week.
Every week.
Every week we meet.
It seems like you're getting meetings and we're getting meetings. It should be, I think, you know, it should be one group doing it, maybe not two.
And I have a suggestion, work group wise, Laura, you know, I think that's a good idea. And I think the focus maybe of a few people from now, if we decide to host this at our next NCC meeting, should be focusing on getting the questions answered from the town that we're looking to, not necessarily discussing process and what we want to do for next steps, but let's really get in and get the town to answer those questions. Let's get the town manager and the select board to give us those answers, so when we come together in September again, we can have this information. Because I think if we don't do that, if these are just gonna fall off, we're gonna be in the same spot in a month, and we're gonna be asking, well, what were those questions? What was the time contractor? So I think a working group focus should be the questions for the next 4 weeks and getting those answered.
Plus, we had sent a letter to the select board with a bunch of questions that, as far as I know, were not answered. So Dan and Mary, did you, is that part of the packet that, do you have a copy of the letter that we sent when we told them our decision from our last meeting? It was our decision, but of questions like permitting, engineering, costs,
I remember.
that we did not hear back from the select board,
I
and
remember.
I would like those added to.
We are not the boss of the select board.
No, I would like them added, it doesn't mean we'll get answered. I just don't wanna lose them, so I don't know if you got the
Absolutely.
letter?
Yeah, no, we definitely, we have seen that
Okay.
letter, yes.
Those, okay.
I wasn't sure.
I was at the meeting and I didn't hear it brought up.
Right, right.
No,
I know.
Not saying that they,
Yeah.
that they, maybe they wouldn't have time to discuss it, but I remember reading
Right.
it.
Yeah, Mary, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that the best thing to do is to contact the chair, who is Charlie Morse, or the town manager, or both, by email preferably, before Thursday night. And ask, the Thursday night before the meeting, you see, and ask to be on the agenda and to speak at the beginning. And then ask the questions. They cannot be ignored. That letter comes in the packet as information only.
Okay, this is how
That's how it ends up.
That's how it happens.
And unless one of us brings up this information only, it never seems to get any further than that.
good to know.
So for example, the last information-only thing I got was something from Norwich University, and the last sentence I think they had was, and we asked to be on the board, we asked to be on the agenda for 9/9. So I would suggest that you do that.
That's good to know in the future.
All right, well, maybe Mary and Dan, I'm thinking, why don't we work together? I'll re-forward you the questions that we had sent in our letter, just so you have them. And you've got a set of questions that you capture at your meeting. Why don't we synthesize those questions, the ones that we think the select board can answer?
Yeah, I would point out a lot of those questions, the select board are big philosophical questions,
Yeah,
but like the Act 250 question, I think is a great one for the select board, and
What-
pretty
what-
concrete,
yeah.
and yeah.
What are the regulatory requirements? What do we know about engineering? And what of these can you answer? You know, and we've, so that would be step one. And then, I don't know that we'll do it by tomorrow, but, you know, by maybe the next Thursday, we would have that to select board.
Next Thursday it has to be by, if you want to talk on the 9th.
Right.
Not tomorrow, but.
Exactly, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that
but
I
if
don't
you
think we
want
can do that tomorrow.
I
So,
should think that that would be the best time if you want to talk on the 9th, because then the next meeting wouldn't be until the night before your meeting.
good, so that's perfect. So we'll coordinate on that, and then I'll ask tonight before this group convenes, who among the Conservation Commission is able to attend that next select board meeting. And then if there could be someone from your group, then we can, present, as Mary suggests, that seems like a great idea, present those questions.
You stand there in front of the little lectern there, and, yeah. people pay attention to you.
So the Northfield Roxbury Outing Group is not part of the accessibility, but we have a vested interest too.
Please come.
So should we go to their meeting?
You can come to our meeting.
Anyone can come to our
Everybody
meetings,
does.
yes.
Okay.
You can come to our meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tuesday,
At this
6:30.
moment, my sense is at the moment, we're not forming a subgroup or new work group to work on this. Maybe we'll decide that over the course of the next month, but we're not deciding to do that tonight. If we decide to do that, then that's a collective decision. You know, we'll figure out who's gonna participate, and we'll have to respond, kind of think about how public engagement fits into that piece of it.
Hey, David,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt. Could you just, I just want to confirm that Nancy brings up a good point that we have a group we call ourselves Concerned Citizens, and we would like to be thought of as one of the members. You know, you said the two groups, you, Conservation Commission and Walkability, but we were assuming that the select board has wanted to hear from the neighbors at Byam Hill, so we have formed a group that includes them and others, and we'd like to be looped in on anything that happens. Thanks.
thanks, Laura. Yeah, for the request of the select board, anybody who wants can attend the select board meeting and stand up and say their piece. This often happens, right? We're all talking about like feeling excluded from a process. We're all volunteers. I'm just trying to figure out how to make sure somebody moves this forward. It's not an effort to exclude anybody. Somebody just has to do the work of meeting with the select board. Somebody has to write down the questions and summarize this discussion. So if there's anybody who wants to do that other than me, I would be delighted. But at the moment, I'm going to try to do that in a way that's as transparent as possible on behalf of the Conservation Commission and furtherance of the select board's obligations to serve the town. So with that, I feel like I've got enough to move us forward. I'm sure we'll have some other discussions. Laura, you got my email. I'm in the email chain that I know you're on, so anybody wants to reach out and make suggestions, happy to adjust this process as we go. But it feels like we've got a step forward. We're gonna ask for some information from the select board. The accessibility, et cetera, committee will continue to meet and have dialogue and open public meetings, and the Conservation Commission will meet next month, and we'll set aside time on this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what should we do with the posters? Easy question. Should we leave them here? Should we? Yeah, we're gonna see the pictures.
I think keep a record of them. I'm not sure if the
I
town.
took a picture of them last time.
Me too.
Yeah.
You did too.
There's more on there now.
And there's more stuff on there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
You wanna take a picture?
New pictures.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you all for coming and for participating in this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for being so welcoming.
Absolutely. Partly.
So, let me just pause for a second and go back to our agenda. Approval of minutes.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Can we, does someone want to move the adoption of the minutes from
It
last
wasn't my
week?
dream job. I can do that.
Moved by all in favor, say aye. All right, so our minutes are formally approved. I should have asked, is anyone willing to do the minutes?
I'm doing them, I'm doing them.
Thank you so much, Deborah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that Cheney Field restoration, that's on the heels of this. Given the information that we've got.
I'm synthesizing.
Did I understand Mary correctly say that the plan now is that they won't be doing the field restoration work until the spring?
What happens to open soil? I mean, what's the,
Well, it's covered with slate, right? So it's not, I don't think there's an erosion, significant erosion risk, but I don't know.
If the tanks do come and you put them in here, we see it both around the construction area, the roads and stuff, probably just let them off.
Right.
emailed him.
Well, we'll have more time. I guess that could be one. It's just a piece I know that all of us don't want to lose in the midst of the discussion and controversy around the parking area. There's a core thing of making sure that road is taken out and that it's ground reseeded in some fashion or form.
And by road, just to clarify, we're talking about the one that came across Shannon Field.
Yes, yeah, and I want to assume good intentions, and I don't want to assume in the absence of information that things are being managed badly, but it's a little hard for me to feel completely comfortable that the town's managing this contract effectively, just given the kind of the lack of information that we've been getting. So, which doesn't, I'm not suggesting I think they're handling it badly, I just don't know enough to know one way or the other, but it does give me pause and feels like we should continue to make sure that we in the middle of the parking discussion, that we don't lose the focus on as a separate and important issue that we are expecting, hoping that the road through Cheney Field is restored. Is that fair?
Yes.
Does that capture the spirit of the group?
The road needs to go.
Yes.
It really needs to go.
Okay, so with that then, conversation with Jens Hilke. Who was in that conversation with me? Russ, Suz, and me. Either of you want to share some of the insights or thoughts that we got from Jens? It was, I'll frame up the question we posed to him, which is we were asking, I think, for advice, really more specific to the Northfield Range discussion that we've been having with the Mad River Valley Conservation Commissions, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But he actually stepped back and asked some larger questions that I thought were interesting.
Yeah, I was really amazed. I mean, like coming up with a 5-year plan and really focusing on just making a big, I remember he was saying like, we could focus on the range issues or zoning issues, but he wasn't sure that we could do both. Was that right? There was two, like we kind of were at a fork in a road of where we would try to really focus our energies and educational issues and coming up with a big overall strategy, which takes a lot of education and outreach before we even try to like come up with a specific thing like a zoning change or something. By their hearts and minds first.
They're meaning the public.
The public, so we're not just like throwing something at them that's not, that for us, we all understand why it would be important, but might not be easily understood. That I hadn't thought in terms of that.
Maybe it was, Russ, anything you want to add? Anything you want to add in terms of the conversation with Jens? Yeah.
Well, I just the importance of different strategies he gives to get people to buy into conservation on the whole.
Were there people from
More
Waitsfield?
pointed to Northfield Range.
No, it was just us. We just asked for an opportunity to visit with Jens. And for those of you who don't know Jens, he works for, I think he works for Fish and Wildlife. And, but he really works on a broader set of issues that involve land, forest, water conservation. But one of his primary jobs that I think over time has kind of evolved is he's worked very closely with local communities, particularly conservation commissions across the state, to help empower them to, give them advice on opportunities to do things that align with state and our land management policies and practices. And I think he was speaking from experience. He was looking at us as a volunteer commission in a relatively small town that doesn't have a lot of staff resources and saying, wow, you have a lot you're trying to bite off all at once. And which is fair. I think we're all feeling that. Debbie and I, one of the first meetings that you and I went with the watersheds, I can't remember what it's called, but the group of folks that Friends of the Winooski have organized. And we met with the different groups, and one of the things that I heard was from the the Berry group. I can't remember their name, but there's like the Berry Rivers, are us or something. But they seem really quite effective and coordinated. They're all volunteer. And they had done a fairly simplistic, strategic planning effort where they came up with like a piece of paper that said, here's our mission, here's our, the outcomes that we hope to achieve in the next 5 years, and here's 2 or 3 actions that we're gonna tackle. It might be, given Jens' advice, that might make good sense for us to think about setting aside one of our meetings where we just do that. We kind of put aside the regular business or compress that into a short time and spend some time with some paper on the wall and brainstorm a bit.
And he'd be willing to come to a meeting too.
Yep, and I think Jens wanted to help with that.
And he has been to a meeting, it was probably back in 2010, 2011.
Well, and we have the event in October with, I think one of the things, we could focus, one strategy would be focusing on water and trees and wildlife and these different compartments, and we've got the event in October coming up, so really thinking about more how really playing that up, making it successful.
Yeah, I don't, and Jens wasn't suggesting that we weren't proceeding appropriately. It wasn't that.
No.
It was, and he didn't know a lot about what we are actually doing. The conversation was, we asked one question and he answered a different one. We said, we need advice and help in thinking about how we do this collaborative thing with the Mad River Valley Conservation Commissions to conserve the Northfield Range. And he said, I think you need to step back and say, is that your top priority or not? That's a big project, that's a big effort. And there's a lot of resources in those communities that Northfield doesn't have. And there's a different community of people, different cultural expectations or, investments and natural resources. So think about how you want to, whether that's the first thing. He wasn't saying no, just that you should decide that's what you want to focus on. So I think if that makes sense, then maybe I'll aim for the October meeting. Does that make sense as a time frame? Russ, when do you head south?
First part of November.
So good, because I would love for you to be here in person if you could. So I'll mark that for our calendars, that's the strategic planning meeting, and see if I can get Jens to come to that. And even if he can't, I think I have enough experience facilitating. I think if we got some butcher paper and up on the wall, I could capture our ideas and help us lead us to a plan. I have a feeling we'd probably get there fairly quickly. And I think some of the educational work that Jens is suggesting, we've been doing. We've been having river events. We have the walks that Russ leads. There's a lot of things we're already doing. We may just want to be more intentional about flagging those as key priorities that we want to continue or expand. Anyway, sorry, so does that make sense as an action item for the outcome of that discussion with Jens? So then upcoming Regional Conservation Commission meetings. Berlin Conservation Commission was scheduled for September 3rd at 4:30, but yesterday the chair called me and said they're canceling because several of their members can't make it. So we rescheduled to the first, I think that's a Wednesday. Is October 1st a Wednesday?
Monday. October 1st is Monday, is Labor Day. Oh, September 1st. You say October?
Yeah.
I don't know, sorry. It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, yes, October, so it'll be October 1st at 4:30. And I think everyone's welcome to attend that. Just let me know if you plan to attend. I think if more than, 4 of us go, was completely fine, and it's a publicly noticed meeting for Berlin. I would just need to probably have Ken put it on our public notices too, if that makes sense. And the purpose of that conversation is really open-ended. It's just that we know we have this shared land between Berlin and Northfield, and they're doing a lot of interesting work on conservation on their side. I think, I'd love to learn more about what they're doing and how they go about, how they've gone about that effort. But there's also a very specific question, that was somewhat teed up by the request that we got from the mountain biking groups about whether we wanted to have some kind of a shared conserved corridor from Payne Mountain all the way over to the Berlin Pond area. So nothing, no decisions, to be made or anything, just an open conversation about that. And building a relationship with that commission. I spoke with their zoning administrator in Berlin. He said that they're doing a great job. Like the town's really pleased with that conservation commission. And then the other one is the one with the Northfield Range, talking with the Mad River Valley Conservation Commissions, primarily Waitsfield and Warren, but theoretically it could ultimately include Moortown, Facein on that side, and maybe Roxbury on our side. There's not a conservation commission in Roxbury, is there? Do you know?
I don't think so. Roxbury very fortunate, a lot of it's conserved already.
Yeah.
State forest land.
There's all the state forests there.
Yeah.
They just.
Braintree, you go down further to Braintree, Randolph also had it.
Right, yeah, I mean, we could go really big. So the conversation on the 30th is really, the idea that came out of the last meeting was whether or not the conservation commissions collectively wanted to be part of organizing a new entity. Not the conservation commissions, but a new entity that would have representatives from each of the conservation commissions or each of the towns. That would be responsible for pursuing shared conservation strategies across the range in collaboration with the land trust organizations, Trust for Public Lands and the Vermont Land Trust, and the state of Vermont. So there was kind of a general shared interest in pursuing something like that. Not clear whether it will happen, whether there's enough energy. But if it does, actually, I would welcome a little discussion about that among this group. If you have any cautions or concerns about that, or if you're excited about it, or if there's thoughts you have about how we might structure the town's participation. It seems like someone from our commission would want to be part of that, but it doesn't need to be. It could be someone from the Town Forest Stewardship Committee that's not on the commission. We have this, just as a little side note, we have Bill Del Sola, who was in the back. I don't know if you all know him. He's a significant person at the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, is involved in making significant decisions about where funding resources are spent in the state on land conservation. He lives in Northfield. He's also the chair of the Association of Conservation Commissions. And he's just joined the Town Forest Stewardship Committee, thanks to Jeremy's expert recruitment so feel really lucky that we've got Bill in these discussions.
Yeah.
But did anyone have any cautions, concerns, or enthusiasm, or some mix of those things?
I would get enthusiasm, not caution. I think it sounds cool.
Ditto, both ranges, both ridges.
Yeah. I think back when we first formed the commission, you talked the two ranges and the river. I mean, the basic priorities for Northfield Conservation Commission from natural resource.
Yeah, I like that. That's really simple. We'll use that for our strategic plan.
Right.
Two ranges and a river.
The 3 Rs.
The trails that are across both of the ranges too are pretty good. So like you can utilize them if there's more of a collaboration between the different towns.
Yeah, good point.
So does this overlay, or does it matter, like the Regional Planning Commission or the Regional Economic Development Group? Because when you get the borders all different,
it doesn't perfectly fit all those layers, but the Regional Planning Commission, the same person who came to our meeting a year ago, whose name escapes me, is coming to this Northfield Range meeting. We invited him to come, and he was enthusiastic about it. So we'll definitely loop in the Regional Planning Commission into it. And I think that their jurisdiction, it's the Central Vermont one, I think it covers the Mad River Valley.
Mad River Valley got their own
Oh, they do have their own, okay, so
plan,
it's,
regional plan.
so, yeah, so
The
you're,
Mad River Valley does?
Three towns. Just include Warren, Basin, and Waitsfield. Doesn't include Moretown, doesn't include anything south of Warren. It's really the ski towns.
There isn't a different culture on
Fighting
the
my
other
lip.
side of the mountain.
Not at all.
I in my lip. All right, so, anyway, so that meeting, I've kept Russ directly in the loop because he made the first meeting, and so, I've sent him the invitation. If any of you would like to go to this meeting, I haven't yet figured out where we're gonna meet. I keep finding out that the places I wanna meet are not open. But last time we met at the pizza place in Waitsfield, so.
Flatbread.
Flatbread. I was thinking we might try to meet at Lawson's, but I'm not sure if they're open. But I'll figure that stuff out, and I'll keep you all updated, but would you like to come, Ruth? All right, so that's that. So the last set of things are the things we didn't get to last month. We wanted just a quick update on the Climate Smart Schoolyard grant. So happy that Mo is here. So would you be Mariella, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Willing to,
Doesn't matter to me. They planted trees, in end of July. Maybe it was like 20 little, I honestly don't know what they're called. He said, I think in his email he used yellow woods, but I've never heard of that before.
I don't know, is someone watering, am I taking care of them?
Yeah,
This drought?
so that's
Okay.
like part of the agreement is that they're gonna like
Good.
take care of it for like the beginning and then it's supposed to be on the school, but like they are like fenced in, they're really small trees, like this
Oh,
tall.
okay.
So there's like 20 of them, there's.
Where are they?
behind. It's, do you know like, behind the elementary school, there's that really big hill? They're like at the bottom of the hill. Yeah, and then they need to plant another really big one in the middle of like the jungle gym. Yeah. It's an interesting plan, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but right now, there's like a bunch of little trees planted there. I'm not really sure what they're, like, if they're going to get bigger. That wasn't really like clarified in the discussion, but we'll see.
what's a tree that has yellow in the name, Russ?
Yellow birch.
Yellow birch,
That's
maybe?
not what he
Wouldn't be
wrote.
yellow, wouldn't be yellow poplar.
He wrote yellow wood in the email, and I asked everyone, no one's like, yellow wood, that's not a thing.
You're referring to like some pine or something, is he named yellow pine?
You don't find down south,
Yeah, name.
they don't grow up here.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll wait for an update.
Yeah.
Once you find out, let us know, Mariella.
Yeah.
But that's good, I'm
Now we're all
excited.
curious.
So pumped in. So who's the group that's taking care of the trees and planting? Do you remember, like, but that's, the part of the grant is that's the group's responsibility to
Yeah,
do
they're
that.
supposed to do it at the beginning and then it's supposed to be on the school, so I should honestly
The
follow up with
maintenance
the
guy
school.
from the school was part of that committee,
Yeah, he was,
Okay,
and he was enthusiastic and
yeah, but I think a good gentle reminder that, hey, these are like babies, you know, make sure once school's starting that we're maintaining them or else they're not going to survive. I think that's a good plan of action with that one.
excellent. Well, thanks for that update. Jeremy, do you want to give an update on the Youth Trails Improvement Project and our recent fundraising discussions?
Sure. Youth trails, Mo, have you been up and to see anything?
I actually just texted my friend who apparently did a walkthrough today and she said that she didn't notice any difference, but she might not be the most reliable source, but.
Okay, because somebody else I know that went over there was like, oh my God, there's a bunch of stuff that's different over there now, so. We had VYCC obviously for 4 weeks, was it 5, maybe 4? 2 weeks on Garvey, obviously we did an early week in April to clear up blowdowns, and then they were here last week doing various projects that Mo submitted some photos for, to water bar work and things like that, so they were back over there last week doing work. Then the 2 weeks on the town forest, they moved, we talked about this, but they moved the bypass, Butternut Junction out of the thick, wet area that it was in, out into more of a dry hardwood forest. That came out really good, it looks amazing. They also did a vista view over the beaver pond and put a couple benches there, so you can go sit and look out over the beaver pond now. We expended the $40,000, and I think that was a pretty successful first start with BYCC. Since then, David, myself, and Judy Knapp from the school have been working with Patrick Pfeiffer, to develop a further partnership, a 5-year partnership with BYCC to engage the youth at Northfield with potential for high school graduation credits. They're working on that now. We're working on trying to do some fundraising for that. They've given us a budget. We're thinking about hitting up like Darn Tough, Northfield Savings Bank, Gillespie, the guy who owns Bike Express in Richmond, or in Waterbury, was a resident here, so reaching out to him and trying to put together this package of a 5-year commitment where we could get a dedicated, I think, what was it, 3 or 4 weeks worth of work each year into Northfield using the youth that they.
And how much is a week?
We have a budget. I'll send, I've got a draft flyer that I'll send to all of the members of the Conservation Commission for your comments and your information. And frankly, I think once we get it, and maybe never final, but when we get it to a more final version, it's, I would love to ask for everyone to share it around to see if there's businesses or people that you know that are philanthropically oriented who might be willing to contribute. And it has a budget with a fundraising goal. And at some point, I'd like to get a couple of commitments, if we could, from a donor who's like at least maybe a tentative commitment. And I'd like to come to the town and tell the town we've got an opportunity to, get this, and BYCC itself will bring its own, some funding. They need help from the town to cover the full costs. But anyway, I'll share that. It has the details in terms of like how much it costs, how much to spend. And it's, if you were going to do trail work and you were doing it, you wanted to be cost efficient, you would not hire the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps. They are much more expensive than hiring like just a regular trail contractor. But the point of it is that it's, broadens creates opportunities for youth in the community to be part of this effort, and they have a whole leadership program. So that'll be the pitch that we'll try to make to the town. But I think it feels to me, as someone who's done a lot of fundraising, it feels like a fairly compelling proposal. And if we have enough people that contribute, not any one entity has to contribute the entire amount. So anyway, I'll share that as soon as I get back home and I'm at my email with the full group, so you all can see what we're talking about. But I mostly just wanted to give an update. It's a work in progress, and the basic pitch that one thing I did, one additional update. I sent a message to Tom Davis today, who had volunteered in the past to help us with grant applications. And we found a source of grants that can be used for this kind of thing. It includes VORAC, but it includes, there's a recreational trails grants, there's something called the Northern Border Commission that has catalyst grants that are supposed to support a mix of job development and recreational and conservation work. So that one in particular, I asked Tom if he'd be willing to look at the grant application and see if we couldn't fit the criteria and go for it. The town would have to apply for it. So I have no idea if he has any capacity or time to help us, but I think we have a fairly compelling idea. The select board already has supported it through the ARPA grant. So I feel like if we go back to them with a modest request, that they'll be supportive also.
Excellent.
That's great news.
It's exciting. Positive. It was kind of my hope that we would get the Conservation Commission enough interest in our community that they would be willing to help, because we can do a certain amount of fundraising ourselves, but we need the town and we need an organization that's like BYCC to help kind of support the effort. And then the last point of business then, Jeremy, is anything you want to update us on related to the Town Forest Stewardship Committee?
Yeah, so with the larger conversations of access to Shaney, and access to the town forest in general, in our Shaw Center updates from Andrew last week, we had a discussion about the access to Kingston Road. It's in poor condition, requires grading, ditching, and some crown work. We kind of feel like, with the larger question of around Shaney and these roads, here we have a prime example of a access that already exists that the town isn't currently maintaining. So we talked about that a little bit. One of the, Andrew sent us out some photos to the Town Forest Stewardship Committee late last night to bring to Jeff, because that is a town road that has 2 or 3 parking spots at the end of this. To Kingston. Parking spots at the end of Kingston, 2 or 3? Is there 2 or 3 out there? Two or 3 parking spots at the end of Kingston Road? That can't.
You could do more. I mean, if they did, they could probably get 10 or 15 if they bumped the road out a little bit here and there. But right now, it's moved to 3 max, pretty much.
Okay. So I'll forward the photos along, but that was one where either myself or Andrew got to talk with Jeff, the town manager. Andrew has had conversations with Jeff in the past about getting the town crew out there to look at the road and grade it and take care of it, and nothing's really come of it, so.
But it's on our land or Norwich?
Town, it's a town class 4. Is it
That's
class
for,
4
that's
that you
for,
got there?
so they can maintain it, they don't have to.
So, trying to get Jeff out there or somebody to take a look at it, because he had committed that to Andrew earlier this summer, and Andrew was looking to see if there was anything that was gonna happen from it. Other than that, we did start to have a brief update on Shaney Field parking. I kind of felt like at the time that the topic is largely out of Town Forest Stewardship Committee's hands. We've made recommendations. We had one of our members who was here earlier, Ginny, request that we start trying to brainstorm solutions for better access. So that's kind of where we started to shift our energy to, and a couple things. We ended up passing a motion, and I'll just read it to you guys now and kind of tell you what the intent is. The Town Forest Stewardship Committee is in favor of permanent parking access to the Northfield Town Forest in areas other than Shaney Field. The Town Forest Stewardship Committee is in favor of a temporary vehicular access during special events and designated times to Shaney Field. Our intent with that was I was at the Montpelier Farmers Market just before this meeting, and they have a grant that they applied for from AARP for community funds for 55 and older. And my vision was trying to apply for that grant and setting up some sort of like Shaney Field access days where throughout the summer, in cooperation with the NCC, the Town Forest, and Select Board, we have some sort of transportation coming out of the common that goes right up to the field on some sort of timed loop where the community, the neighborhood knows, okay, today's the day that there's gonna be vehicular traffic coming in and out. We could have some tents up there with some shade, water, rest spots, and provide a different level of access rather than parking and people coming in and out all the time where it would be a designated time. We also envisioned like the Mayo Clinic with their vehicle being, if they wanted to bring their patients up that wanted to just come up there, or other field trips if they made a request that we want to go up and do a school field trip or something like that was one idea. Another idea that we had was Andrew has a full write-up of it, what he refers to as an easy up trail from the Shaw Center that he's worked with Apex Trail Building on. that again, I think would be a great project to pick away at if we pull this BYCC stuff off, because there are sections of that that I think they could pull together for us. And basically what the Easy Up Trail is starting at Shaw, it is a switchback, basically back and forth all the way up. It meets a certain grade requirement. It doesn't go over a certain grade requirement. I can't remember whether it's like an 8 or 10% slope going up through, but it would switch back up. And as his dream is to have it go all the way up to the Red Trail or to the Anchor. And the purpose of it, or the original intent of it, is an uphill access for mountain biking, but it could be a dual purpose type trail. And as it switchbacks up through, it touches on Shaney Field, so that could be an outlet out to Shaney Field, and we could, have a moderate trail that would provide more access for a larger group of people than currently the steep access that's there right now. So I think those are really two of the big things we discussed. I think we've started to shift into we've had the conversation about Shaney Field a few times. We still are in the same mindset of we don't feel like parking is appropriate, but we understand access is desirable, and how do we meet that? And that's kind of where we're shifting our focus to now, and recommendations that we're working to put forward for whenever we do have that next level discussion of solutions.
Excellent.
Russ, do you have anything you want to add?
No, that's pretty good. Any questions for Jeremy? Well, good.
Go.
Well,
Good job.
Gerard, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
You probably already know all this stuff, but, one of the big concerns that I hear from the select board a lot, or comments from the public at the select board meeting, is we can get this parking area for free. Well, we're not getting it for free. Let's be clear. The contractor would love to do it because he's gonna save a hell of a lot of money not putting Cheney back the way it should be. So there's always a cost. The biggest cost in my mind is the loss keeping Cheney in its natural state. And it's pretty well known that Cheney has some of the best low elevation views in the state of Vermont. And I don't think people go up there to look at cars. And I know you folks understand that, but I think that needs to be conveyed to the select board. And my stormwater issues are very concerning. We got a 500,000 gallon tank up there, and now we're gonna change the runoff from natural rain with climate change coming down this quote unquote improved road, which is gonna have impervious material on it. It doesn't have to be tarmac to be impervious material. So they're gonna be changing the stormwater runoff up there if they don't return Cheney to its natural state. And in the zoning regulations, there's a whole lot of verbiage about not developing in elevated areas. So just some things to think about. And I agree, people want access, and I think your committee and the Town Forest Stewardship Committee are doing the right thing. You're trying to figure out ways that you can improve access without having a parking area up there. And I don't care if you call it a parking area, I don't care if you call it a parking lot. They like to play with the verbiage and talk about semantics, but the bottom line is you should not have automobiles up there. For safety reasons, on top of just the natural beauty of that area. It's the general Northfield, and it should be maintained that way.
Well, thanks for coming tonight.
You're welcome. Thanks for hearing me.
Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, can I make one last other point, of course? Laura keeps referring to us as the Byam Hill Group. I've got a list of 21 names in support of the letter I sent to the select board, and I'd be happy to share that with you. And it's not just people that live in Byam. There's people from Northfield Falls, there's people from Central Street, there's people from Winchview. So I don't think it's fair. They like to use that phrase because I think they figure it's a NIMBY thing, like not in my backyard. And there's support from other areas in town as well.
I did share the letter that you mailed to me. I shared it with all the members of the
Thank you very much.
Could we also, those letters that we've received, can we attach those so they're part of our minutes, so they're out in public for, is that appropriate? To attach them as feedback we've received to date?
Sure.
as part of.
Yeah, I don't see any reason that we couldn't do that. The reason I'm pausing is just I'm thinking about, they were submitted to the select board,
Okay,
and I think the select
oh,
board.
okay, so they didn't go directly to
Yeah,
us.
they're part of that select board's record, so I think they're publicly available. I don't know that we need to do it.
Okay,
We could.
yeah, that makes sense.
What
Just
about
a-
the
David,
David Crane? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Right,
Sorry.
no, that was my question too.
I think he sent that to you,
Just me.
I think.
So
Yeah,
the-
Charlie.
Can I just make one point? I think Mary said that letters that are sent to the select board are just informational and they don't see them.
That was very instructional.
So unless you get on the agenda, so the public hasn't seen those, because if they were sent to the select board and they weren't scheduled public participation, they don't go in the record. That's what Mary said, so I think you're okay if you'd like to send.
Yeah, well, you've got them, Debbie, so
Yeah.
if you want to attach them,
So Gerard's and Bruce Crane's,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, why not? I mean, there's no harm to it. All right, all in favor?
Can I have two other business questions?
No,
Um,
okay, go ahead.
Real quickly, at some point, we do have to talk about, our TU Mad River Day.
Oh, we
That,
definitely
that will be in October. I have gotten some emails from Clark. He would like our role he gave me recently a little card that he'd like to see if we can get to landowners on the dog through Northfield, an informational card about Dog River Day. I think that's kind of the largest commitment he's asking us for right now, is to just print these cards and get them in the hands of the landowners along the Dog River through Northfield Falls. That's all I've really got from him, so I assume that's the largest commitment we have, but we also have, I don't know if we were gonna do anything else as far as,
publicity.
yeah, I know we was gonna put it on our Facebook page, but I can't remember if we talked with him about having some sort of booth, or we were just
Yeah,
gonna have some sort of presence, or,
So September 10th is the deadline for the Northfield News for October.
okay. I'll
So-
pass that on to him,
They'd probably be happy to give
They'll
us
be
a
very
quick-
happy to.
put that card in, okay. I'll go back to Clark and see if he's, made contact with them, because I think he was aware of Northfield News, and I think he was gonna talk with them, so, but I'll check back with him, so.
I definitely feel like, we can talk about this in September, right? At our September meeting, I think we should definitely have a table
Yeah.
or booth there. And I'm certainly excited to participate. I'm sure a number of us will.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it back up, because.
Yeah, thank you, and I totally forgotten about that.
And then just one other quick one, Deb, myself, and Colin and Andrew met, 2 weeks ago? For, another round, since Borac committee has disbanded, I guess, officially now, because the fundings have gone away. There was another appropriation from the town to finish the signage that wasn't done for Borac. So we got together and were asked to put together just a small working group to finish off what was left for directional signage and other small things. So we've been kind of plugging away on that for some more signage for next spring.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it'll include Russ's request for another round of invasive treatment, 2 more rounds
Excellent.
for the hawk watch.
That makes me think of another item that we can talk about next month. I'll just allude to, but Debbie and I were invited to meet with the Friends of the Winooski hired a facilitator, or I don't know what to call them actually, but they hired consultants that are helping to lead the whole effort under that grant, the river walks and things like that. So Debbie and I are gonna meet with her. She asked if we could invite someone from the Riverwalk Committee to join.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to
Sure,
pass that?
I'll figure that out, right.
So we'll just be meeting with her and finding out, we'll just be sharing generally how we see Northfield's interest in this. I'm not really sure what they'll produce, like what they're gonna do, but they're supposed to be experts at community engagement or designing community engagement efforts. So I think we may get a really professional set of recommendations to us on things we could do in Northfield, which would be great if we had, you might fit into our strategic plan of things we want to do next.
Yeah, meeting over?
All right, I'll vote to adjourn.
Russ,
I'll adjourn. Let me turn
All
off
right.
the recording.
Got a bunch of yellow jackets today, it was some invasive work.
Oh,
no.
I
jeez.
lost a pair somewhere, I got back to the house, my glasses were gone, so they're somewhere in the woods near the yellow jacket.
Oh, great.
I lost one hearing aid back in there too.
Oh.
Okay. We're, I got